Good day, South Africans. Advocate Moekwa here from SA Law Hub. I'd like to talk to us today about some of the concerns that were raised by South Africans in various media platforms, social media platforms, on South Africa's position to refer the situation in Gaza to the International Criminal Court. Now, the argument is made that South Africa is hypocritical, that South Africa is busy trying to close Israeli embassies in the country, that South Africa essentially has double standards because they did not take the same actions in relation to allegations by Russia, for example, or against Russia. And as a result, they feel like South Africa's position on Israel is problematic, right? And often when such utterances are made, I get very disturbed. I get very disturbed because, one, we know for a fact that the situation in Ukraine has been referred to the International Criminal Court, and it takes one simply to go to their website and will see that the situation is being investigated. But then again, there's the second thing that's important, is that South Africans must understand that in as far as South Africa's role in the international community is concerned, South Africa is a sovereign, independent state that's able and must be able to pursue its foreign policy direction in line with its national interest. And there's nothing else that South Africa has done other than to do that. Secondly, we know that South Africa is it's a democratic country based on certain constitutional values. However, here's a challenge. It is not only the constitutional values that are a consideration in determining the direction of a country, right? But also one thing that's also important is that it is not just South Africa as a country that has the ability to refer matters to the International Criminal Court. All other states that party to the International Criminal Court have the ability to refer matters to the ICC. The 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council also have the ability to refer matters to the ICC. The various NGOs have the ability to feed the Office of the Prosecutor at the ICC with credible and reliable information that could potentially guide their decision as to whether or not they would want to pursue an investigation and or prosecution of allegations of, for example, the most serious crimes of concern to the international community as a whole, right? Which includes, obviously, we've spoken about genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and crimes of aggression, right? Now, in light of all the above issues that I've raised, the question then becomes, if we say South Africa, because it's hypocritical, we should not be referring these matters to the ICC, then the question remains, who must, right? Who has the right to cry, to complain, to moan, and or to refer matters to the ICC, right? What kind of a person is this, right? And my view is very simple on this issue, is that every person, it does not matter who, has a right to complain, to cry about the most serious crimes of concern to the international community that are being perpetrated, right? Or allegations thereof. I mean, if a situation develops in country X and there are allegations that there are concerns around parties to the conflict not complying with the Geneva Conventions, law of armed conflict and related issues, then what is wrong with us saying out in the public domain, requesting the relevant authority to go and investigate the situation on the ground and come and give us feedback whether in fact from a realistic point of view, based on evidence that are found to confirm that there are war crimes or not. Also, the other thing that's important is that if a country such as South Africa refers a matter to the ICC, it does not mean that Israel is essentially guilty of violation. It means they're just going to go and do a fact-finding mission, and if they find that there are no war crimes that's been committed, then nothing will happen. If they do then find evidence to the effect that there were violations, also the law is very clear. So I don't want us to talk about politics on this issue. We don't want us to talk about public sentiments and emotions. I don't want us to talk about religion and ideological issues, because those factors are important, but they are not important in terms of their conduct of hostilities of soldiers in an operational area or a conflict zone. Because what's important in that situation would be actually compliance with the law. Are the various parties that are engaged in hostilities in a position, right, to have complied with the law? Did they fail? And if they failed to comply with the law, then our concern as the citizens of the world must never be on the politics, the religion, ideological issues, emotional issues, public opinion. It must only be on the law, and the law must be allowed to take its course so that we can get to ensure that these crimes that are allegedly committed, those that have committed them are held accountable, that these crimes do not in any way go unpunished. And that is the bottom line, South Africans, and that is the point that I want to bring home to you. In closing, I'm saying, who has the right to complain, to cry about, to request a referral, right? And it's simply this. To my mind, it does not matter who you are. You are a drunkard, you are LGBTQI community, you are a rebel, you are an insurgent, you are whatever name they call you, even the worst of rejects and war criminals themselves potentially have the right to cry out about violations of the most serious crimes of concern to the international community, and they have a right to request an investigation to be done. But the states can refer, right, these matters. NGOs can feed the office of the prosecutor at the ICC with information so that they can decide if they're going to investigate or not, right? The UN Security Council has a right to decide if they're going to refer the matter or not, right? But every single other person can cry out, can complain, can be concerned, can be angry, can be mad. But my view is that every single person that is, for whatever motive they have, it does not matter whether they are hypocrites, whether their motives are wrong, whether the foundation of what they want to do is moral, immoral, or whatever the issues here, it does not matter. The point is the intention of the international community is clear. We need those who are perpetrators of war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, crimes of aggression, to be held accountable, right? And whoever is calling for the said crimes to be investigated, prosecuted, and for members to be tried, then in my view, the entire international community must support such. That is the only way we're going to deal with this thing. It is no longer the question of the victor's justice, where those that are victorious, even the wrong that they did is not considered. In this case, it is justice for justice sake. And the question, and the most important question that we have to deal with, South Africans, is the questions of law. There are many other political questions that we can think about when it comes to the ICC, the UN Security Council, and related aspects within the international justice system or international criminal justice system and so forth. But in the end, my view, everybody and anybody calling for these crimes to be investigated must be supported. And South Africa, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I submit, is on the right side of history on this question. And this must not just happen to the situation in Gaza, but it must also happen to the situation in Russia. It must also happen to the situation in Mozambique. It must also happen to the situation in Ethiopia, in Syria, in, for example, every other place where there are allegations of war crime. It is only through this that we can ensure that there is real justice in the world. Thank you very much, South Africans. We appreciate you, and do join SA Law Hub on our YouTube page and share our content, share our links, subscribe, and also turn on your notifications so that this great content can also get to you and many other South Africans. We have the responsibility to ensure that people of this country, as much as they know about their human rights, they also know about the international humanitarian law of armed conflict, because that those fields of law directly affects potentially their human rights in an armed conflict situation. We're not gonna do training and bring about awareness when the conflict is here. Therefore, we must do that today. And I have started. Join me in this journey to educate South Africans, Africans, and the world on the law of armed conflict and international humanitarian law. Thank you very much, South Africans. Much love, much respect.